This is the new Kia Stinger, and I'm really quite glad it exists. You see, when the Stinger arrived in 2017, it was a bit of a sales flop, despite being a bargain luxury four-door coupe, and also underneath, it's a proper driver's car. Still, Kia decided to stick with the car, give it a midlife facelift and cram it full of new tech. So is 2021 the time to go and pick up a Kia Stinger? Well, today we're gonna find out. But before I get into the review, you know what to do by now. Hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to see more awesome videos just like this one. The new Stinger looks pretty much exactly the same as the old one. So I came to the back because this is where the main change is. And it's this new light strip that runs along the back of the car. And as you can see here, it's not just a reflector, it's actually a proper light bar. And at night, it gives the car a much more luxurious look to it. You've also got these new LED indicators. And what you have is on each side, 10 individual lights that apparently are meant to mimic a checkered flag. Not really seeing it, but there you go. And just like the last one, you get a quad exhaust system at the back, which kind of makes it look like a budget Alfa Giulia Quadrifoglio. There are no design changes at all at the front of the car, which isn't a bad thing because the Stinger was already a very handsome looking thing and a very long one as well. We do, however, get new 19-inch wheels, which makes the car look a lot more luxurious. Now, because the design has been largely unchanged, you still get all of the Stinger's kind of weird styling quirks. Although we have a very big engine under the bonnet, these vents right here are completely fake. But the vent that you see right here, which is fake on pretty much every other car, actually has a function and will take air from the wheel arch and channel it out the side of the car. Now, BMW has something called the Hofmeister kink, which is a signature design of the rear window. And Kia kind of feels like it's going for its own thing because you've got this really nice kind of line that runs along here and then just kind of finishes perpendicular to the roofline. I'm sure there's a reason that Kia does this, potentially for regulations in other countries, but you have a reflector that runs along the side of the car, which kind of makes it look like the tail lights are bleeding, or it's this kind of weird laser that's coming out. It looks fine on this red car because it's nicely disguised, but if you went for like a grey or a black, it's really ugly. And the actual mechanical aspect of the Stinger is largely the same as the old car, but that's actually a very good thing because the Stinger was a surprisingly good car to drive. And that's because the developer was a guy called Albert Biermann, who used to head up BMW's M division during the glory years and also is now the head of Hyundai's N division. And both companies make superb driver's cars. So not only do we have a nice driver-focused chassis underneath the Stinger, but we also have adaptive suspension and also Brembo brakes. Kia's decided to do a bit of spring cleaning with its 2021 car, so we no longer get the 2-litre petrol engine and the 2.2-litre diesel. Now, before you ever go at me in the comments, they are going to be available in different markets. It's just the UK that doesn't get the smaller engines, and we're left with a 3.3-litre twin-turbo V6, producing 361 brake horsepower and 510 newton meters of torque, which is a lot of torque. Now that's sent to the rear axle only, although all-wheel drive versions are available in other markets, and that's through an 8-speed automatic gearbox, with 0 to 60 taking just 4.7 seconds, which is seriously fast. Now, one of the main updates that we've actually got here is a new exhaust system. So the old Kia Stinger was a little bit quiet, whatever driving mode you were in. But now, if you put it into sport mode, the exhaust will open a butterfly valve and make a bit more noise. The only thing is though, can't really tell the difference. When you get into the new Stinger, it doesn't actually feel like a lot has changed because you still get the same minimalist cabin design. You know, we've got these lovely leather seats as before, leather covered dashboard, and you also get metal trim around the center console. And you've got bits on the steering wheel and the paddles too, although I think those are painted plastic. You do, however, get quite a few new features. The big update here is the new 10.25-inch touchscreen in the centre of the dashboard with Kia's latest infotainment software, which looks much nicer than the old system and is also a little bit slicker. The instrument panel still comes with analog dials, but you now get a 7-inch screen in the centre, which features important information like different gauges and MPG and also the autonomous driver modes. Ambient lighting has also been thrown in, and you can get it with 64 different colours, although I can't think of 64 different colours. The blind spot camera, meanwhile, comes in really handy when you're changing lanes on a motorway, and there are some returning features as well, such as a sunroof, Harman Kardon sound system, and also a head-up display. The good thing is there's only one trim level now called the GTS, and that includes everything that I've just mentioned. So while the £43,000 price tag seems a little bit steep, particularly for a Kia, you're getting everything bundled in. And just for reference, this car's going up against the likes of the VW Arteon R, which costs considerably more, and that's before you start adding on all the options. Let's go over the practicality aspects anyway. The rear seats, headroom is a little bit on the tight side, but legroom not too bad. And the boot, you get 406 litres, which is a little bit down on the Audi A5 Sportback. Now, if you want a full breakdown of rear space and boot space, click the link in the top right-hand corner because I reviewed the pre-facelift version of this car, and it's pretty much exactly the same. The Stinger is a car of two halves. On the one hand, we've got this really sporty chassis beneath us, a big engine, big brakes, that all scream motorsport and performance driving. But on the other hand, it's also a GT car, as the name GTS gives away. So let's go over the performance half of the car first. Well, I'm on a twisty road at the moment, and it just feels like you're in a car that's nowhere near as big as it actually is. It's got a really nice sharp front end, so turning into corners just feels fantastic. It feels like you can be on top of this absolutely massive car even when you're on a tight and twisty B road. And because you've got those nice big brakes, it just adds to the car's agility, so even if you are throwing it through a few twisty bends, doesn't feel like you're going to be stopping a tank when you stomp down on the left pedal. This thing, as soon as you put the power down, you can feel the rear end kind of squat down and shimmy about a little bit. And in the rain, you really have to have your wits about you. This thing can be really, really slippery. And it just adds to the car's character. It's really funny when you're pulling out of a junction and the rear wheels just gradually spin up. In the dry though, if I've got it in something like comfort mode or eco, then the traction and stability control really do kick in and you can feel it restraining the car. I just think that goes to show how there is a character beneath it that's trying to break away and just be a bit of a lunatic. Now, you won't notice a huge difference between the driving modes, other than when you go into sport, the seats will kind of pinch in at the sides to kind of mimic a bucket seat and give you a bit more support. The suspension is also meant to get a little bit stiffer as well, although it's not a night and day difference. And that brings me on to the car's GT-ness. Yes, we've got a big 3.3 litre V6 up front, and it's pretty damn quick, but it's not exactly the most characterful engine. So usually what we do in these kind of reviews is that we rev the engine so that you can listen to the exhaust note. But it was so underwhelming on the Kia, and there's also a soft limiter at 5,000 RPM, that it just sounded like a 4-cylinder engine. There's nothing that special about it. You also have this 8-speed gearbox, which does an absolutely great job when you want it to be a GT, but when you do want to enjoy a B road, it's not as snappy as something like a dual clutch gearbox, nor do you have any kind of blips of the throttle or kind of crackles and pops from the exhaust. And if you want to go into manual mode, the gearbox won't actually let you stay in manual mode for very long. And while we touched on earlier that the steering is really sharp, it's devoid of any feel or feedback. So, which isn't the end of the world in a car like this. Sure, if you go for a BMW, it's going to feel a little bit nicer. And there's a bit of weight to the wheel, but it's largely artificial. It's not going to feel like you're in a driver's car. It's only really when you start to learn the car and the kind of nuances of its character that you can kind of appreciate how much effort has been put in to making this car drive well. It's a bit of a mixed bag, really. We have a great chassis beneath us, something that can be exploited on a twisty road, but a bit of a characterless engine, although it is very smooth, and nothing really to get your juices flowing in a way that I think a lot of people were expecting with the Stinger. And because we don't really have that many mechanical upgrades, there's not really going to be much of a difference with this new 2021 car. But it still feels like its own thing compared to its rivals. While not quite as nice on the inside as an Audi A5 Sportback, it's certainly more interesting and drives with a lot more character. So 2021, we've got an updated Stinger. It's not a huge difference over the old car, but I would say if you are umming and ahhing about a Stinger, now's the time to go and get one, because we've now got the tech upgrade. It still has the same character as the older car in just a more complete package. So Kia's played it pretty safe with the new Stinger. Yes, we've got that new exhaust in the back that seems to add more character, but I can't really hear it in all fairness. And we've got loads of new tech. But the character of the car is still very much there. It's a GT car that just happens to drive really well. And there's plenty of plus points this car has over its rivals. Yes, it's £43,000, but it comes fully loaded with technology. You'll really struggle to add stuff onto the options list. And you also get Kia's legendary 7-year warranty. Of course, you don't have to spend £43,000 though to get behind the wheel of a Kia Stinger, because we've got plenty of new and used deals on Kia Stingers over at yesauto.co.uk.